Welcome everyone to Enterprise.expert. This is the monthly webinar for September 2017, and today's episode is What's New with QuickBooks Enterprise 2018. I recommend referring to a past episode that I did a couple of months ago called Why Upgrade to QuickBooks Enterprise from Pro or Premier, because that one does a really heavy deep dive into QuickBooks Enterprise specific features that pretty much add the most value about QuickBooks Enterprise. However, we cannot cover that in this particular episode because this particular episode is going to be focused on the 2018 options. So today's content will briefly talk about Enterprise.expert webinar. We'll talk about why QuickBooks Enterprise specific will be a sort of a really small summary. Why Accountant Edition, so we'll speak about the main areas around Enterprise and Accountant Edition. We'll talk quickly about the different subscription options on the QuickBooks Enterprise world, and then we'll deep dive into what's new in 2018 for all desktop editions, only for Accountant Edition, and then only for Enterprise Edition. So we're going to break those three, and then hopefully we'll leave some minutes at the end for Q&A. So this webinar series is a monthly webinar all about enterprise level technology. Since we started about a year ago, we have focused 100% on QuickBooks Enterprise, and the minute we're done with QuickBooks Enterprise deep dive features, we're going to go into third-party apps or possibly other accounting applications beyond the QuickBooks world. But for now, we're still drilling down into QuickBooks Enterprise, and obviously today we're focusing on 2018. About myself, my name is Hector Garcia. I'm a CPA, an accounting technology consultant based out of Miami, and there's my email if you have any questions. I'm actually pretty good at answering general QuickBooks and technology questions via email. Now, why do people choose Enterprise? In a nutshell, most of the industries that end up getting Enterprise are retail companies or e-commerce companies, any businesses that are heavy with inventory, manufacturing, and contractors. The reason for that is because you can have up to 30 users, you can have comprehensive roles and permissions, and it really works great in hosted environments, so you can actually put your QuickBooks Enterprise on the cloud pretty seamlessly. And it can work with larger files. So traditional QuickBooks Pro Premier users are going to be limited to about 15,000 list names. And then files that are over 300 megabytes or 350,000 targets start working a little bit sluggishly and do get corrupted quite a bit. So that's one of the reasons why people, probably one of the main reasons people end up upgrading to Enterprise. And with Enterprise, you get better reports. You have more custom fields, and you have the new advanced reporting feature. So because of those four, sort of in a nutshell, type of reasons, people end up going with QuickBooks Enterprise. Now, why Accountant Edition specifically? So we're talking about both the Desktop Accountant Edition, which is about $500, and the Enterprise Accountant Edition, which is more in the $1,400 range. But the reason why people specifically get the Accountant Edition is because they end up supporting multiple clients with QuickBooks, and they have to work on an accountant's copy. So the client sends them an accountant's copy. There's also an accountant center that summarizes all of the most common accountant related tasks when they're reviewing a small business's QuickBooks file, together with a client data review, the ability to send journal entries electronically for adjustments, and then being able to switch their Accountant Edition with one click to any industry edition, so it looks exactly the way it looks for your customer, and that way you can actually experience the same thing they're experiencing. So those are probably the 5 reasons why most accountants or QuickBooks consultants end up getting the Accountant Edition. Now, in addition to that, there are features that are only available in the Accountant Edition or in the Enterprise Edition. So any Enterprise Edition, whether it's accountant or not, or specifically the Accountant Edition on the first level of the software versions, there's these specific reasons. One, you can open two QuickBooks files at the same time. That's actually really, really useful, especially when you're reconciling intercompany transactions. You can do batch reclassify of transactions, batch enter, where you can copy and paste data from Excel, batch void and delete transactions, the new batch merge for 2018, the fixed asset manager, and the statement writer. So for those reasons, people opt to go with the accountant edition, and those are all available in Enterprise, even the non-accountant edition of Enterprise. Now, in summary, for 2018, this chart pretty much summarizes the entire offering of the desktop products. The only one that we don't see there as a separate column is the QuickBooks Desktop Accountant Edition, because that is not offered to the public anymore. So no one can actually call into it and try to get QuickBooks Accountant Edition. That's actually reserved for people that get the Pro Advisor subscription, or that they log in through the Pro Advisor program. But for 2018, almost all the things that we're going to show today, or the majority of them, are actually available across all editions. Specifically, the merge vendors is only going to be in QuickBooks Accountant and the Enterprise edition, and then the enhanced inventory reports are only going to be available in Premier, Accountant, and Enterprise. And the new mobile scanner or mobile phone support for the enhanced sales order fulfillment will only be available in the Enterprise Platinum or Accountant Edition, which are the two highest versions in the Enterprise world. You can also see by the pricing, gives you an idea more or less of what the investment is on the client side, or even yourself if you are going to get QuickBooks Desktop 2018. Now, specifically for the Enterprise side, a new SKU or a new product option has been introduced, which is the Accountant Edition of QuickBooks Enterprise. It's basically going to be the same thing as the Platinum Edition, but it will not include enhanced payroll. Now, for most QuickBooks Enterprise users that manage payroll, we're not talking about accountants specifically, but more like the small businesses, medium-sized businesses that are using them. One of the huge advantages is having that payroll subscription built into the product. So if they get the Gold or Platinum Edition, they're going to get those two with enhanced payroll. Now, for the Accountant Edition, it is assumed that the accountants are supporting other clients, so they can have maybe Gold or Platinum and they're running payroll, but then the accountant may not necessarily need to run payroll for their client. So that accountant SKU price-wise is in between the Gold and the Platinum, but feature-wise it's basically one step above the Platinum, just doesn't have the enhanced payroll. Now, in the previous slide, I explained the specific things are only available in the Accountant Edition. Now, let's deep dive into 2018 new features. So the first group of new features, the ones you're seeing on the screen, these are available across all the editions. So Pro, Premier, Enterprise, Accountant, doesn't matter what it has. If it's a desktop version of QuickBooks, that is going to be available in there. So let's go through them. Okay, multi-monitor support. This is arguably the biggest investment into it made on the development team, just because it did take a significant amount of trial and error programming and resources to get this one to work. And let me explain this one in a nutshell. Before QuickBooks 2018, you had the capacity to expand your QuickBooks across multiple monitors. All you had to do is maximize it. The problem is that the individual windows or the individual screens inside of QuickBooks, if you were to maximize any of those, it would actually maximize across multiple monitors, and the screen would basically be split in half. What Intuit was able to achieve, what the development team was able to achieve, is they were able to basically enable such a feature that you can, with a single button, you can swap windows across multiple monitors, and if you click on maximize, it maximizes within that screen only. Now, this new feature is added under the View menu and Switch Multi-Monitor Mode. So you click on View, Switch Multi-Monitor Mode, and then the next screen, and this is something I can't demo on a webinar just because webinar doesn't support multiple monitors, but what happens is the minute you press that, QuickBooks will detect how many monitors are connected to your computer, and it would allow you to enable multi-monitor support for 2 or 3 monitors, so you can go all the way to 3 I haven't found a lot of people that use more than 3 monitors. As a matter of fact, I haven't found a lot of people that use any more than 2 monitors, as a matter of fact. But it is 3 monitors, the maximum amount you can use. And on this screen, you can actually pick which of the monitors that you want to use. Now, one really important thing is QuickBooks goes from left to right. So whatever monitors you choose, the leftmost monitor is going to have the toolbar on the left side. So that navigation bar or that toolbar is going to be on the leftmost monitor, and it's assumed that you're going from left to right. That's a really important thing, just in case you don't configure your monitors from left to right. Now you're also going to see a new button added to the top of each window, which is called Move Window to Next Monitor. And basically what that does is that will toggle it, and that will move it from left to right to the next monitor. So you actually don't have to click and drag. You can just simply click on that button, and it will swap across. It would basically toggle across monitors. Now, a couple of really important things to mention from this feature is this does not work in hosted environments, just because a hosted environment doesn't support multiple monitors. So if you're logging in via Right Networks, or if you're logging in remotely, you will only be able to use one monitor. And also, all the monitors don't have to be the same size. I recommend that they are, by the way, but they don't have to be the same, but they do have to be aligned at the top. So they need to be physically, not physically, but they need to be in your Windows configuration. They need to be next to each other, and they all need to be aligned at the top. If they're not aligned at the top, it will give you an error and say align them at the top before you can enable multi-monitor support. So this is something that you can only really appreciate once you try it. Now, the pass-through stamp, and I'll show you how that works in QuickBooks, is actually a really awesome feature, and I'm going to add some commentary to this. The pass-through stamp is something that we've been asking for a very long time. Like we don't need to print an invoice and stamp, past due in paper. We need to be able to have a past due stamp on the invoice itself. Now, one of the issues that we had, especially I was involved in the beta testing, was that I actually had some customers in which I didn't want to put the past due stamp on it. Like they were really truly past due, but I didn't want to put the past due stamp on it. So I didn't want to change the terms in order to avoid the past due stamp showing up. So the developers were nice enough to add a toggle where you can actually pick and choose which invoices you want the past due stamp to show. And that's actually a lot of flexibility. I really, really I like that. Okay, so let me show you how that works. Let's switch over to QuickBooks. So for example, I'm going to pull up an invoice, and I'll just pick any customer here at random, and I'll pick an item, and let's make this, let's say $10,000, and I'm going to save it. Now this invoice is current, right? So there's no past due stamp on it. Now I'm going to bring this invoice back, let's say a month, and under terms I'm going to put net 60. So this is still, I'm going to hit save, this is still going to be current. So it's all based on the due date. Now if I actually make this the terms due on receipt or something lower than the difference between the invoice date and today's date, so something like due on receipt, and I hit save, automatically you're going to notice that the past due stamp will show up. Right, you see that past due stamp in there. So there's basically a little button there that says turn off and on, and based on the one that you press, it will either print or show up on the PDF when you create it. So that's actually a huge feature. And by the way, I think I may still have the beta installed, which is why it's not showing up. But there's a YouTube video I posted in which is fully functional, so you can actually watch that in there too. But that's actually pretty much what it is. You either can print the past due or not print it, but it does automatically put it in there. Now the next, another huge feature, something that a lot of folks love. Actually, I did another webinar on QuickBooks 2018 new features, and I asked which is the feature that you like the most, and it happened to be this one, the one that got the most answers. So there's now a search box in the chart of accounts. So if you haven't seen this yet, I assume that you're gonna love seeing this here. So when I go into the list menu and go to chart of accounts, now there's a search box there. Now I've tested the search box to see what shows up and what doesn't show up. So it doesn't search amounts, it doesn't search account type, and it doesn't search inside the description. It can only search by account number or by account name, and it can search anything between it. So for example, let's say I'm trying to find this account called Building and Improvements. If I type MENTS and click search, that one shows up. So it would actually search within any of the words, which I really like. So it doesn't have to be the beginning of the word, it could be any of the words. And it can also search multiple account numbers based on, let's say, the first few numbers. So let's say I'm looking for an account that starts with 28 something, and I want to just jump straight to it. So I can just put 28, click search, and it will narrow down only the accounts that have a 28, either that start with a 28 or have a 28 anywhere between it. So this actually was a really nice feature. I mean, of course, I would like to see a lot more, in the search results. I would like to see a lot more flexibility, me being able to search in the description and that sort of thing, but I think it's a great start. Now, it doesn't search through the inactive accounts if the inactive accounts are disabled. So for example, let's say this employee advances, if I were to make it inactive and I went to search it, I'm going to put here advance and click find, it won't find it. So I do have to click on include inactive first, and then it would search through it. So it does search through it, but you do have to tell it, hey, please go ahead and include the inactive in the search results. So I actually love this feature. I think it's probably one of the best received features that you were going to have, especially from accountants this year. So the other feature, which is really, really small, as a matter of fact, I'm almost kind of disappointed that this was the only thing that they added to report enhancements, but I still like it just because I happen to do a lot of toggling from accrual to cash. And although, you only save basically a couple of steps, it is a pretty neat feature. And I also found it, I have a couple of clients in which I've been testing it with. I also find it that a client, it's much more inclined towards looking at both of these options. So I'm going to pull it up here. Looking at reports in both cash accrual if there's one click button. So before 2018, you actually had to click on customize report, you had to click on cash, and you had to click OK. So that's how you were toggling from cash to accrual. Now you literally just click on the little button there that says report basis cash accrual, and it toggles back and forth in a single click. Now this is not necessarily a new feature because you could switch from cash to accrual already before 2018, but I think this is gonna get more people into switching across the versions and possibly be doing more with the multiple report basis. So I like it. I guess my general statement is I wish they had done more with reports, but I like this new feature. Now the other really awesome feature, I actually really like this because I do a lot of inventory type of work. It's being able to customize the columns in the inventory reports. So I'm going to switch over back into QuickBooks and I'm going to pull up an inventory report. So I'm going to go to reports, inventory stock status by item. So this report before 2018, it was what it was, right? You couldn't pick and choose what columns you could see from here. But now, when you click on the Customize Report button, now you have a whole slew of options of things you can see on this report. So as a matter of fact, I can just remove them all and just have, let's say, Prefer Vendor, On Hand, On PO, and let's say, sales price, and hit OK, and it really does reduce the amount of columns that is there. So this is they didn't give us new columns per se. I mean, most of the data was already there, but what they had given us is the ability to reduce the amount of information that we're seeing on these reports. And sometimes that report, the inventory stock status by item report, was way too busy, and now we can customize what we want to see and what we don't want to see. It is the same exact thing for the report called the Inventory Evaluation Summary. So inventory stock status and inventory valuation summary both of those got the same feature. So when I click on Customize Report, I can also pick and choose what columns I want to see. Now it does, I will take it back, it does add some new columns. It's not just to remove columns, we can also add some new columns as well. So there is some additional information that we can add on these reports and remove, of course, when we customize them. Okay, so let me go ahead and close that and open up the presentation again. Let's switch over to this one. Now, in my sample file, for some reason, it's not showing up, maybe because I don't have payroll turned on. But now there's a little tiny flag, which is basically a red exclamation mark, just basically reminding the end user that if there is a payroll liability, that it is pending, that it is due or overdue or coming. And the reason for this is because one of the biggest feedbacks that Intuit had about users that use their own payroll is that they usually forget to pay their payroll liabilities, and it could be, there could be other reasons behind that. It's not because there wasn't an icon with a little exclamation mark. I mean, the people that do this are irresponsible, lazy. I mean, we can give them all sorts of titles, but now it's making it a little bit easier, at least highlighting the fact that, hey, you got a payroll liability due. So that's right there on the home screen, and I love that feature. Now, the other thing that they added was security enhancements to their webmail protocol. So before 2018, if you had Gmail, Hotmail, and you were using QuickBooks to send invoices via Gmail or Hotmail, you actually had to go into your Gmail account and you had to lower the security settings in order for it to work. Some folks, they don't even know how to do that, and it just doesn't work, and they basically gave up on it, or they're forced to use Outlook or something like that to be able to email from QuickBooks. So if you're using Gmail and Hotmail, now you can actually click on that little checkbox that says use security enhancements, and now it will be fully compatible, so you can actually email from QuickBooks using your Gmail or Hotmail account. And I'm sure they'll add other of those webmail type, but Gmail and Hotmail are the two biggest ones. The other feature that they added, and you'll be glad to hear that it's not just on the 2018 edition, it's also on the latest release of 2016 and 2017. So both of the last 2 years, 16 and 17, if you upgrade to the latest release, they added this feature too. However, they're adding it in the, showcasing it in 2018, because it was the 2018 development resources that brought this up. So the Stay Logged In feature is specifically good for accounting professionals or consultants that actually open and close a lot of QuickBooks files, and for some reason, they use different passwords, and they have to go in and enter a password each time. So if you actually click on Keep User Logged In, you have a slew of choices, and I'll show you that on the software itself. We go to the Edit menu, we go to Preferences, we go into General, Company, and then right here it says log off every time. So what that basically means is when you close the file and open another one, you have to log in with a password again. If I click Keep User Logged In for 1 day, 2 days, 7 days, all the way to 90 days, if I close the company and open it again, I don't have to put the password to log back in. And now this is really, really big, especially for accounting professionals that are switching across multiple QuickBooks files. Now I'll give you a warning. This doesn't work for QuickBooks files that have payroll turned on, or QuickBooks files that have credit card payments turned on. So if you got credit card payments, merchant services, or payroll, you still have to put a password to log in. The reason for that is because QuickBooks encodes social security numbers, and it also encodes credit card numbers. So those two things will need a password for you to be able to access and decode them. But for QuickBooks files that don't have that, which is the majority of the stuff that accounting professionals do, they can turn this on and they can switch back and forth with their files. So that's just really, really good. So we'll hit OK. I have a question here, very good question. If you keep the user logged in, will the server be prevented from making automatic backups of the QuickBooks file? You know, Linda, I don't have the answer to that. I'm sorry. I know I should research it and try it now, but I don't know. So I don't know if there are consequences to keeping logged in and your QuickBooks not being able to be backed up automatically. So I don't have, I really don't have a clear answer on that. So good thing that you asked the question, and so now it's something, you know, something to research. So again, I don't know what the consequences of staying logged in potentially are. Okay, so let's move on to merge vendors. So let's talk about merge vendors real quick, and then we'll discuss it, and then I'll do a demo of it. So merge vendors was a feature that, and I'll brag a little bit about it. This is something I specifically requested to developers. I am sure I wasn't the only one that did it, but I know I was pretty verbose about getting some sort of merge capability in batch. Now, I really wanted to do is merge accounts, merge items, merge customers. I wanted to merge every list item, but they started with merge vendors. Now, when they were developing merge vendors, they ran into one particular issue. See, my use case for merging vendors, or the reason why I would need to merge vendors, it's because I get a lot of clients that use maybe bank feeds, or not even just clients, even myself or my team members that use bank feeds. And a lot of vendors come in with slightly different names, and maybe the user is not noticing that there's a slightly different name and creates a new name. You know, I have like 17 different Chevron and Exxon, or 17 different Cheesecake Factories, right? Because they come in slightly different, and the user tends to create a new vendor. Now that makes reports really, really messy, having essentially the same vendor being created multiple times with a few character difference, and it is a really long manual process to go in and merge each one. So what we wanted was a way to merge a whole bunch of vendors in batch. Now, because of the real state of the screen and because of the additional features they added to this, something I wasn't even thinking about when I requested this feature, was they limited to 4, so you can only merge 4 vendors at a time. So let me show you what that looks like. Actually, before I show you what it looks like, let me give you a few very important pointers about it. Only available in Accountant Edition and across all Enterprise editions. As I mentioned, 4 vendors at a time maximum. There's a few new data fields never seen before, which I absolutely love, and it gives me a lot of hope in terms of what we can do with something like this in the future, now that the developers have figured out how to get this data, which now you get the number of transactions in the past 2 years, most recent transaction date, and oldest transaction date. And I'll show you that it'll make total sense when I show it to you on the screen. A quick note, you cannot merge vendors that are set up for online banking electronic payments. So if you use Direct Connect and you're making this direct payments in which the bank basically sends the vendor a check through QuickBooks, you cannot merge those. So you have to remove them from the list of vendors that can be paid online. Also, I've seen some issues in my testing of merging vendors marked for 1099. Now, I was able to merge some, but I got a bunch of error message, and I didn't prepare a 1099 afterwards. So I'm just going to give you a warning that just be careful with the ones that are marked for 1099. All merging cannot be undone, so there's no undo button, so make sure you do a backup first. And remember, the entire history of all the vendors will be merged as if there was no multiple vendors in the first place, and there's no audit log or no history of separate vendors. So make sure that you know and are aware that this is a pretty permanent process. Okay, so let's switch over to this feature. So I'm going to click on the Accountant button, Client Data Review, and Merge Vendors. If you're not on the Accountant edition of Enterprise, this would be under the Company menu, and somewhere around here it will say Accountant Tools, and it would be in there. But because I'm in the Accountant edition, it's going to be on the Accountant, Client Data Review, and then Merge Vendors. So when you first see the screen, pretty straightforward. A list of all the vendors, a few columns, such as vendor tax ID, account number. I mean, they picked random columns in here. I wish I had a way to choose what columns we can preview here, but this is what they gave us, so we'll deal with this. Then let's say I want to merge a couple of vendors. I'm going to merge this one, and this one. So I'll pick the 3 vendors that I want to merge, and again, I can go up to 4, so I'll just pick one more just so we can see the whole screen. Then I click on next. See, notice that now it gives me an error. One of these was posted for 1099, and it's telling me that there's going to be some issues filing your 1099, so I'm going to hit yes, and that's really what I was alluding to earlier. Now on this screen, you now see all 4 vendors. Okay, and you can scroll right and left, and you can actually preview the information for each one. Now this is something I really like, the fact that not only gives you the balance, which is obvious, but also gives you how many transactions are there for that vendor in the past 2 years, what is the most recent and what is the oldest. And when you're doing the merging, this information could be relevant. Like if I'm merging a vendor that I never used before, or am I using a vendor that's really active? So by looking at this, the first transaction date, the most recent, the number of transactions that it's had in the past 2 years, that could give you some information to maybe stop doing the merge or maybe do some additional research in the process. Now up here, you can actually select which is the main vendor or the one that's going to stay. So they're all going to be merged to the new vendor. And then from this screen as well, you can also change its information. So you can actually change the final address, the final phone number, whatever it happens to be. And you can, from your preview of looking at them, you can choose what you want, the vendor type, that sort of thing. And then once you're finished reviewing them, choosing which is the main vendor, maybe possibly changing some of the address, the default button says backup and merge. So it forces you to go to a backup process. Now, when we were going to the beta testing, we specifically requested a button that it doesn't force you to do a backup, because some of us are advanced users and we understand these consequences and we know what we're doing. And some of these enterprise files could be, a gigabyte, and they could take 30 minutes to do a backup. So under the mantle of responsibility, I say, there's that merge button there without the backup, but just be very careful. Now it does give you a warning. It says, are you sure? And the default is no, so that's good. So it basically, possibly stops you from doing it. So then I'm going to hit yes, and then it does the merge. And this is equivalent to a standard merge where you take one vendor name, change it to another vendor name, and merge it. So that surely beats the standard process. So see how quick we merged those 4 vendors. Normally, if I wanted to merge these 2 vendors, for example, I would have to right-click in one, click on edit, copy the name, or just make sure that if I type it, I spell it correctly. Right click on the one that I want to merge to, edit, type or paste the name so it's equivalent. In some cases, you're not sure exactly which is the address that's going to stay. Was it the one that I'm pasting into or the one that is coming from? And then we hit yes, and we go forward. So it's a fairly simple process to merge already, but being able to do 4 at a time, I find it to be really useful. Now somebody's asking, will merge work in multi-user mode? So you're going to have the same restrictions as multi-user mode. I actually haven't tested it, so let's do a quick test while we're at it. We actually have some time to do it. So let's do the test. Will merge vendors work in multi-user mode? Now I haven't tested it yet. I'm gonna make the assumption that it does not, but I would love to be proven wrong otherwise. So let's check it real quick. So I switched to multi-user mode, accountant, client data review, merge vendors, and the answer is no. So you must be in single user mode. It uses the exact same restrictions as before. Okay, perfect. Let me switch back to single user mode just in case. So thank you for asking that, Tracy. It's good thing to clarify. Okay, so let's move on to the last piece, which is the new features for QuickBooks 2018. And it essentially is kind of 2 new features. One is an enhanced sales order fulfillment screen, specifically for planning product picking, and then a new support for a mobile app. Now you can use a regular Android device for the mobile app, or you can use a barcode enabled Android device. So we'll talk about both. So let's start with the enhanced sales order fulfillment. And let me explain this. Now, this is only available in QuickBooks Enterprise Platinum or QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant. And the purpose of this is for the back office to select which of the sales orders need to be fulfilled or need to be shipped. However, in most inventory type of businesses, and that's really my specialty, I do a lot of inventory work. In most inventory type of businesses, um, the the there's the process of picking tends to be the most painful one. Like, which sales orders are available to ship? Are they already in boxes? Are they in their bins? Are they in their shelves? So planning for the picking tends to be a very manual process. People print the pick slip, give it to the warehouse people. They walk around with the paper, go look for the product, stage it, and then go back to the back office and say, yeah, these are ready to ship. Or worse yet, they give the warehouse people access to creating invoices in QuickBooks, and they're the ones that create the invoice themselves. So what this is supposed to solve is giving enough flexibility to the warehouse personnel to mark a sales order ready to ship without them specifically converting the sales order to an invoice. Okay, a little bit more of what that looks like, right? So you're gonna have all your open sales orders. It lets you know which ones are fulfillable, which ones are not, based on the inventory stock levels, and it lets you then choose which of your warehouse people, which of your pickers are going to be eligible for this. So let me show you a demonstration of that. It's kind of difficult to show with just screens. So first thing you have to do is, again, you have to have Advanced Inventory turned on, which is only available in Enterprise Accountant and Enterprise Platinum. So you're going to go to the Edit menu. You're going to click on Preferences. You're going to click on Items and Inventory, Company Preferences, Advanced Inventory Settings, and you're going to see a new tab called Site Operation. So on this new tab called Site Operation, there's a little checkbox that says New Sales Order Fulfillment Worksheet. Now it says requires internet, and let me explain that. Okay, the new internet, the new sales order fulfillment worksheet will send the information through the internet, through Wi-Fi or however you're connected, through an Intuit server. This Intuit server will now send the information back to an Android device. Now I'm going to enable my webcam real quick so you can actually see what I'm talking about. So I have an Android device here in front of me. Turn on my webcam so you can see. Not sure if you can see it yet. It looks like the webcam, for some reason, it didn't turn on. Let's try this again. Okay, can you see webcam? I'm not sure. Can you write in the, just write in the, if you don't mind, can you write on the chat box, see if you can see my my face and the phone I have holding in my hand. Can you see it? No, not yet. Oh, okay. Well, not fun. the webcam was actually kind of important for you to see the tool itself. Let me try one more time. Okay, how about now? Can you see me? Okay, perfect. Looks like you can see me. Okay, so let me zoom in the camera real quick. Okay, and so basically the way it works is you're gonna get it connects to the internet. Then you take your Android device. Okay, this actually happens to be an MC40, which is an Android device with a barcode scanner built in. So you can actually see there's a barcode scanner built in. This device itself is about $1,200, so it's actually not an inexpensive process. But you don't have to have the MC40 with the barcode scanner. You can actually use a regular Android device. But the way it works is once you get it connected, once you get it up and running, you're actually going to have a new app called, I think it's called Warehouse Management or something like that. And what this app does is it allows you to do picking along the way. So I'm actually going to show you how that works. So I'm going to go into Customer Sales Order Fulfillment Worksheet. And by the way, just going to make a quick pause here. I'm doing a webinar tomorrow around this about the same time where we're doing a deep dive into advanced inventory. So it's all going to be advanced inventory and all about using the new sales order fulfillment. So we only have about 10 minutes to showcase this, and it won't do it a whole heap of justice. But if you're really interested in this particular area of QuickBooks Enterprise, make sure you attend tomorrow's webinar, and I'll put the link on a slide in a few minutes. So anyway, so these are my two open sales orders that I have. I'm just going to open one to show you. This is an open sales order that I have. You can use all of the advanced inventory features. So look, I got the warehouse location, I have the bin number, I have the lot number. So pretty much I have all of the advanced inventory features turned on. So let's say I'm in the back office and I want to tell my warehouse person, hey, go pick this order, okay, or this is ready to be shipped or ready to be fulfilled. So in this screen, you get right here the amount that you have available to fulfill. So in this case is 1,800. The amount of items that are inside of this sales order, the order status, whether it's open or ready to pick, whatever it happens to be, and yes, it's fulfillable. So I am the back office person that wants to now assign one of my pickers to go pick this order and go put it in a box or ready to ship. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. Then it's going to give me a summary. It's going to say, okay, this is what this sales order looks like. You got these two products in that sales order. This is how many they're open. This is how many they're available. This is a regular, open sales order type of fulfillment sheet. And from here, you can actually modify the warehouse that you want them to pick from. Now, this information comes straight from the sales order. Hopefully, you're not changing the sales orders being done correctly, and you don't have to make a change in here. But if you need to, for whatever reason, change the bin location or the warehouse location, you can do it from here. Now, if you click on this little button here, which is the availability button, you can actually preview, how many you have in each warehouse. So that way, if for whatever reason the person that created the sales order wasn't 100% sure, or didn't pick the right warehouse or bin, you actually have the choice to preview it here and change it if need to. But hopefully, my suggestion is, hopefully this is being done correctly from the original sales order. Then we're gonna go ahead and click on next. And it's going to ask you, okay, I'm going to give this pick name. By default, it's just going to give it the sales order number. You can change it if you want to, or you can just leave it there. In my opinion, just leave it as is. And then you pick the picker's name. So when you configure these barcode scanners, you're normally going to have one picker, so Hector, John, Mary, Steve, whatever, one picker per scanner. So usually they're gonna have them hanging in their pants or whatever, and they're gonna get a notification says, hey, you gotta go pick something. So I'm gonna send it straight to Hector's picker, and then I'm gonna put a note saying, wrap them up separately in brown boxes, whatever. So this is where we can send shipping instructions or picking instructions, or only pick the newest ones, only pick the freshest ones, whatever. So at this point, you click on create and send, and what that does is, I'm gonna hit yes. So what that does is, okay, for some reason it's not connecting, but with the create and send, what that does is now that sends it to I may have to reestablish the connection there, but that sends it to the barcode scanner, and then from here the person will actually click on the sales order. They would scan each product, assuming you have the scanner. If you don't have the scanner, they would just select, yes, I picked 6 of these, I picked 4 of these, and then once it gets picked, it comes back as fully picked on this sheet. So then this sheet, once we come back here, I just want to close this for a second. And on this pick, the sales order would now show that it's been fully picked. Now let me show you with the screenshots. I wasn't prepared to do a full demo of this one because I'm doing it tomorrow, but I just want to kind of show you how that works, because I'm actually going to set it up and make sure that it works on tomorrow's presentation. So anyway, the sales order fulfillment sheet would then update your sales order and let you know that, so this is a brand new thing. Your sales orders will now say these specific items have been picked, or these items have not been picked. So now we get one more layer of information. We have the sales order, we have the picking status, and then we have the invoicing to work with. So as I mentioned, any Android device works with this. I happen to have the MC40. So any Android device that has KitKat 4.4.2, I'm not an Android user, so I don't know what that means, but I assume something to do with the operating system. As long as it has that, the user can actually just manually say, yes, I picked this one, fully picked, partially picked. They don't have to scan them. You don't have to scan them. You can use this without scanning anything at all. Or if you actually want the picker to actually have to scan the product in order for it to be ready to be fulfilled, there's one device that works, which is the MC40. Now, let me show you real quick. On the CDW website, if you actually type CDW MC40, you will go to, there we go. So I just want to make sure you know what these things cost. So these cost about $1,200. Okay, that's what they cost, $1,200. It's going to be a significant investment. However, I have a lot of clients that manage $1 million of inventory, and spending a couple $1,000 in barcode scanners, it's a non-issue. Okay, so I mean that's pretty much in a nutshell what that new feature is. So let me see if I have any open Q&A. Okay, so really good question. Can you use any other barcode device? And so the standard QuickBooks barcode feature will still work, but not for the picking. So this picking function only works with the MC40. Like there will not be another device that works with that. Now this is an untethered device, a 100% wireless device, and it does not need to be on the local Wi-Fi. So you can actually have an office in Miami and then have a warehouse in New York, and you don't even have to have QuickBooks in New York. As long as there's any sort of Wi-Fi or internet access on the devices themselves, you're going to be able to work. So this is going to be great for remote warehouse type of locations, but it's only that the MC40, the only barcode enabled app that will work. Device that will work. Now, one thing I'll show you. I'm going to click on this link, and I have it there on the slides. Let me go to here. Where am I? Okay, that link that I have on the slides, and I'm going to pull it up again just to make sure that. Click on homepage to give you an idea. So that link that I have on the slides, so if you downloaded the slides, you have it right there. If you want to take a picture of it, take a picture of it. That link that you have there gives you access to a live demo of QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant 2018. And that's all within the browser. So you can actually play with, if you don't own the software, or you're not going to own the software, or you don't have access to it, or you're not going to buy it, whatever happens to be, you can actually go into that link that I put there on the slides. It's right here on the screen, and it will take you to a live demo of QuickBooks Enterprise 2018. So you can do any of the things that I did on there without having to install it in your computer. So that's a really, really good resource. The other resource I want to recommend is this one right here. Let me go switch back into the browser. Am I? Okay. Which is that link that you see on the screen here. Let me make it a lot bigger because I know some folks were asking about this. So make it a lot bigger so you can see it there. So that link that's there, bit.ly/QBO versus QBES. That's actually a very comprehensive spreadsheet I created, and where I compare about 140 something features. How many features are there in total? 147 features, and I compare them across QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Enterprise, and QuickBooks Desktop, and I let you know it's on this version, it's not on this version, whether it requires Accountant Edition only. This is a really, really useful sheet. I use it now. I've been using it for about a year. I've been updating it for the past year when I'm doing a sales call with my clients, where I'm trying to recommend a specific product. So I actually go through it and ask the client, hey, do you think you need this? Do you think you need that? And it really does help me make a recommendation. Now, QuickBooks Enterprise 2018, it's already available. I specifically recommend, especially because we have 86% of the people watching this live to get the accountant edition. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up on the website as well, so you can see the Intuit website for QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant Edition. So all the new features have been now updated into their website. It has everything that you need to learn about the new product. It has the entire pricing and then the phone number to call for questions. So if you are in the market for QuickBooks Enterprise or QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant Edition, call that number 1-888-236-9501. That's Intuit's direct sales support team. And if for whatever reason there was something that wasn't covered or wasn't cleared, you can email me, and my phone number, my email is on the screen. Okay, so for tomorrow, as I mentioned earlier, if you're part of a QB Power Hour, which is a free webinar series, you don't have to do anything. You're gonna get the link. We're gonna deep dive into advanced inventory with enhanced sales order fulfillment. We're gonna do the actual demo with the scanning. It takes a considerably amount of time to do the setup and configuration. That's why I was just briefly going through it on this session. We're gonna go completely in depth on what advanced inventory looks today in 2018 with this new feature with the barcode scanner. And if you haven't registered, just go to qbpowerhour.com for that. Okay, the next episode of Enterprise Expert will be in a month. We're going to deep dive into QuickBooks Enterprise timesheets, billable time, labor job costing, and time-based reports. That's the third Wednesday of October. So make sure to join us there as well. So keep connected. Go to our Facebook group, join the Facebook group. Let's continue the conversation about QuickBooks Enterprise and any other similar features. Any similar things that work to QuickBooks Enterprise, or apps or new features, whatever happens to be, or email if you have any other questions, inquiries, or ideas for the next episodes. It's top of the hour, so thank you very much for attending, and you have a wonderful day.